Hello and welcome back to the Back to the Feature podcast. We've recently started doing more episodes of this podcast, and we have a lot of fun putting this together and talking about different subjects. We've talked about horror movies. We've talked about superhero movies now technically a couple times in podcast form. And obviously, with December and Christmas, that means one thing. It means Star Wars is coming. Did you think I was going to say something about families or Christmas cheer or even being, a Grinch or a Scrooge? No, it's about Star Wars now in December, and I couldn't be happier about that, to be honest.
Me too. It's like one of those things you just... growing up with Star Wars, I mean, this is like the best thing. It's like, as an adult, I get all these Christmas gifts for myself. Star Wars comes out every year, and just I don't know. It's a pretty awesome thing that they're doing.
Yeah, it's kind of like that thing where like you get toys for the kids, and you're looking at the toys they have, and you're like, man, I want those too. So it's kind of nice in movies, I think, with some of the blockbusters that I think that like Star Wars does a good job of always having been aimed at a very diverse audience, and being one of those tent poles that a lot of different people can come together and watch. And I think that that's what's always been important about big films, like the great franchises, right?
The events.
The great, franchises like Star Wars. I include Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
I think that the Marvel movies are kind of becoming that.
Yep.
One of those things, these great trilogies, these great franchises and stuff like that are kind of things that everybody can rally around. And I think that's why Star Wars had such a profound impact, throughout, since it came out in 1977 and throughout, all the way up till now, multiple generations are able to share this story and this universe together, and it's just kind of become, I always find it great that there's unifying films.
Yeah, I mean, well, if we ignore the prequels, but there's a lot of prequels. We're already talking about
Star
the
Wars.
prequels.
We're talking about those things.
Yeah, the original trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's just a lot of fun. I grew up with we all did, right?
Yeah.
We all grew up with Star Wars, am I right?
Mm-hmm.
But this is probably the reason why I'm sitting on this side of the microphone is because A New Hope,
Yeah.
So, yeah, and that was introduced. My dad's not a film buff, He didn't even like Star Wars, actually. I just recently found that out talking to him, this year. What do you mean? Wait, what? You don't like Star Wars? I was at a friend's house, and their dad was a huge Trekkie and a huge Star Wars fan. And I did not become a Trekkie, but I latched on to Star Wars, obviously. So I was
like your laser swords.
Yeah, of course, man. And they had all of them, too. They had box set. They had stuff that they didn't touch. That was the collector items. And then they had the stuff, the replicants right next to it that you could play with. And they had, a closet full of Star Wars toys.
I remember I was at a friend's place a long time ago, still living in Phoenix at the time, and I went into his room, and his wall, he was probably a teenager at the time, and I was still a little kid, so he was amazing. That was an adult basically to me. I'm pretty sure now he was a teenager now that I'm remembering. But all of his walls in his room were all these, it was action figures, still in the box, all tacked up onto the wall of the original Star Wars action figures. Jeez. It was one of the most crazy, as far as collection things that I've seen. It was honestly kind of just a wow thing, especially how valuable those old, I think the Kenner toys are. They're very valuable, those Star Wars action figures, and I swear that man must have had all. He must have had all of them. Though the amount that, like I said, it literally every single wall in his room just covered.
I'm curious if he has them still, or if he can.
Oh, I really hope he does. If he's out there somewhere, I really hope you have those figures, because, damn, man, that's worth a lot of money. Get a lot of money on your wall. There's always money in the banana stand. But it's definitely, like I said, it's this unifying thing. That we've all kind of shared as children. I think it's funny that you mentioned that your dad was not really a fan, because honestly, me and my brother were the big Star Wars fans. My dad liked it, didn't love it kind of thing. I never remember my dad really going off about how much he loved Star Wars. We shared Batman and Spider-Man together, but Star Wars was really more something that we really latched onto. And my mom I just recently got her to even watch any sci-fi films, kind of.
Yeah, I remember you telling me about that.
She's not a sci-fi fan, so it was really tough for some of those ones. That's why I've never become really a Trekkie. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? You're raised with it. It's kind of like it's a lot easier to kind of get into it. Like if your parents are into something,
Yeah.
But if they're not into something, you miss out on some things.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, but luckily, they put those on. I mean, this was like the VHS, like the original copies, the original versions.
That was the first way that you saw it.
First way that I saw it, I believe I was 6 or 7, somewhere in there. But I remember like watching the trilogy over and over again, like all the time we'd go over there. You'd watch a movie, then you'd go like, saber duel, I mean, they had like Han Solo. I mean, they had the guns, they had everything. Like they had tons of toys, and they lived out in the country, so you just go and play. But yeah, there's a lot of good memories wrapped up in that. And honestly, I just remember just watching Return of the Jedi over and over and over again. And that's typically the one that gets the least praised.
Yeah, the original trilogy.
In the original trilogy, but
I think
it's such a good movie.
Shrift. And I think it's a lot of fun. I can definitely see why. Because I remember as a kid having a lot of fun with that one as well. And, like, it's funny, like you mentioned the sabering. That's definitely a big part of it as kids, running around. My mom, this is a direct quote from my mother. Oh, when they were kids, everything was a sword. Everything was a lightsaber. If they could swing it around, it was a sword of some sort. So it was definitely something that had a profound impact. I remember one time I was out in the yard. It was when I was in Phoenix as a little kid. I don't even remember how old I was. I know I was under the age of 10 for sure. Standing out the driveway, and I've got this shitty stick that I'm trying to use, and I'm making lightsaber noises and everything. And there was a guy there, because of course it's Phoenix, so we have like the pool, like the in-ground pool out there. He was working on the filtration system for it. He sees me out there in the driveway, in the hot Phoenix suns, and they're swinging this stick. And he goes and he cuts off, a couple feet of PVC pipe. He's like, here you go, kid. And hands me that. And that became one for a while until the guy had like some plastic baseball bats and some other things like that. And then, of course, the cool ones came out, the awesome ones.
Once all the toys came out. That
was the prequel was good for the toys, for sure. At least, some of those toys.
Yeah. I was 9 when the first episode 1 released, Phantom Menace. So I mean, that's like prime young boy sword fighting, gun fighting type.
You can't see the layer of shit over the Phantom Menace quite as much as other people. I think it definitely calmed the way that like how it was like one of those things that you realize as they went on got bad because you got older with them, and then you're like, this wasn't as good, especially the second time around.
Yeah, I mean, it's the internet's a funny place because you either defend the prequels or you just think they're utter trash.
Yeah,
and I'm right in the middle because they had a big impact on me as a kid.
Yeah.
But what's funny though, when episode 9, I pat myself on my back for this. But obviously, when Phantom Menace came out, I already watched the original trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
So. Even at age 9, I preferred the original trilogy over that episode.
Yeah.
And when I look back at it, it's like, man, that's pretty cool that I thought that I made that conclusion.
Stuck to your guns.
Yeah. But I think it's because seeing the first film was something completely, just as amazing to me.
Yeah.
Because at that time I didn't see barely any movies, or nothing like Star Wars.
Yeah. I think like you said though, like, us being 9 or roughly 9 years old when Phantom Menace came out, I remember not hating that movie at all. It's only on like rewatch you go, oof. My last rewatch, last time I ever went back and watched it, I'm like, that is a very bad movie. It really only has like a couple scenes of merit at the most, and then it really gets bad. Attack of the Clones is really, really bad too.
Yeah, I remember liking it when I first watched it, but I think I think I've only watched it once. Mm-hmm. I don't think I've ever returned to that movie.
Yeah, I think that it's one of those things that, like, for me, it was always about the universe more than it was ever about, like, how good the movies were. Because I think I would revisit some of them. You know what I mean? At first, when they first came out and I didn't think they were so bad, like, I would revisit them every so often. But it was so much of just like, as a kid, I just loved Star Wars. You know what I mean? I just live, breathe Star Wars all the time.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, what is it, 2002?
I think so.
Something like that, 2001, 2002. I mean, yeah, just an example of like how 11-year-old or 12-year-old would think. It's like obviously like the Boba Fett like kind of like precursor there with the clone army.
Jango Fett.
Yeah.
With his double guns and stuff.
Yeah, it's like, and everyone's like, it's like obviously like, ugh, like we had to put this in there. But as a 12-year-old, it's like, the origin of Boba Fett, like that's cool.
Yeah, I always remember thinking that the Geonosis pit was cool too, with all the Jedi showing up.
Yeah.
Seeing that many Jedi together, and at the time I knew everybody's names and stuff. Like, that's Kit Fisto and your real Poof and yada yada and and Plo Koon and stuff. Like I knew everybody's name for some. You know what I mean? I was just so into Star Wars. I mean, I played the card games. I played the role playing game. Like the D&D version. I still do. It's like still just real sweaty about it. Loved Star Wars inside and out. And for me, it really started. It's funny. It started at Blockbuster. It's like I said, my parents weren't fans of the franchise, really. Yeah. So they would never buy it for us for some reason. Or, like, we would never ask.
Just give us the greatest thing ever, please,
yeah,
parents.
Can you please? Can you please? And,
I didn't own it either until recently.
Now.
Like, before Force Awakens came out, I bought the trilogy on Blu-ray.
I'm a grown man. I went out and I bought my paper plates and my own Star Wars, right out of the gate. But, it wasn't until I was older that I actually have them now, or have access to them.
So many times.
What me and my brother would do is we would go to Blockbuster. My dad, because he was a big movie fan, he loved going to the movies, loved renting movies, so he would always get a big stack of movies from Blockbuster. So, of course, Mom would get a movie, and we'd maybe get a movie or two, and then his movies. So, out of our picks, there was always a Star Wars film in there. For the longest time, it would go on for months and months, where it would just be A New Hope, and then we go back to Blockbusters. Okay, Strikes Back, and then go back to Okay, Return of the Jedi, and then go back, and then start right back over. And it would just go this cycle. Every time we went, there would be a Star Wars film in there, whatever the next one was, or the restart.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how we would watch it. My parents should have just bought it.
And then you did that until 2001, and then Lord of the Rings released.
That's where my nerdism went there.
Yep.
With the next great franchise.
That's where I was too.
Mm-hmm. I was in Harry Potter. I'd say it can be up there too.
Oh yeah, you were. I didn't watch Harry Potter as I was a kid, so.
I read the books and everything. Like that's another one too. Like I said, these franchises where like large groups of people could rally around. We would read the books together, kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like it was something the whole family could actually get into. Like, what can we all go to the movie and go like, oh, this was great and we all loved it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's always great to have these tentpole franchises that people can get around.
It's great to feel like that still as an adult. Like when we went and saw The Force Awakens, we went on opening night, and there was a wedding. Full uniform Darth Vader, like, groom. Awesome wedding. I mean, obviously, it's cool, too, because we had to wait in line. We couldn't go in the auditorium early because they were taking pictures in there and this and that. They were blocking the bathrooms for photo shoots. And it's like, that type of stuff is annoying, but it wasn't annoying because it was just so fun to see everyone in costume.
The pageantry of
it all. And it was just kind of like, that's such a cool thing. And there's, like, news crew. It's just awesome to like, be a part of something like that. Go into a packed, every seat taken theater and, watch Star Wars on the biggest screen that you can find.
And that's what I think is so sad a little bit, like, about the current state of film and just in general, the post-internet entertainment age, that there's so many niches and everybody can find little things. I love that we can find little things, but I think that, like, we as a society need to have movies to rally around where maybe, where it crosses lines, you know what I mean? Where it's like maybe someone you wouldn't necessarily talk to, you both like Star Wars, so it's a thing that you can connect on. You know what I mean? Even someone who's very different than you. And I think that that's one of the things about, like, these big juggernauts, that as much as I think that, like, people, when they see movies like Justice League or, things like that, or, like, the Power Rangers one from this year, something like that, they kind of, or the Transformers films are a great example. These, like, vomity blockbusters, These just, there's another Pirates movie coming. Like these kind of blockbusters. And I hate to do that where I'm like, well, look, these are different. They want your money, but it's different. But at the same time, it really is. I find that, like, in general, especially with the original trilogy, these were movies that were made with a lot of passion. These people really were passionate about this universe. George Lucas is passionate about his universe, at least.
He was passionate about his prequels, too.
Yeah,
he was uncompromising.
So
to his vision, which, I mean, in a way, is applaudable.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's just filmmakers don't do that stuff really anymore. So, I mean, like, that's applaudable. I'll give him that. Even though he, did what he did. But, it's still cool that type of stuff exists.
Yeah.
But like just going further now into the sequels, as they're being called, all the complaints obviously that they mirror, or The Force Awakens mirrored A New Hope too much. But it's like, guys, this is a 40-year-old franchise, and they're bringing it back to an audience that wasn't, you know what I mean? Sure, there's huge fan base that's still around that loves the original trilogy. Like, that's one of the largest fan bases ever.
Yeah.
But there is a huge fan base that was not alive at the time. We're in that group. And then just the next generation after us, too. They didn't maybe born during the prequel time. That you have to kind of bring these people into it. You got to bring these people back, and all complaints. I always push the complaints aside, or the criticisms of The Force Awakens in that way, because at least they knew what that magic was, and they reconnected you to it.
Yeah.
Even if the movie is not like the best thing ever, or not as original as ever, they still connected you to what made the movie special.
Yeah.
And I think, and I hope everyone can agree on that.
Yeah, there's a visual harmony to Force Awakens with the original trilogy. It feels so... it feels like it's the same universe. It feels like it has that aesthetic and that tone that the originals had. I definitely get everybody's complaints about the plot. I get it. Because, what? They couldn't think of another idea than to, make a bigger Death Star that shoots 5 planets at the same time. You know what I mean? Where
spoilers.
If you're listening to this, you've probably watched Star Wars. And according to most of the angry internet, I'm not really spoiling anything if you've seen A New Hope. So
which is 40 years old, so it's fair game.
It's fair, totally fair game. But it's one of those things. I totally get those complaints. But I think that what the thing is for me with Force Awakens, and the thing I really love about Force Awakens, is its new cast of characters are extremely interesting to me. Kylo Ren is an interesting character to me.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't fit in that New Hope archetype very easily. He looks like Darth Vader a little bit, and he wants to be Darth Vader, but he's not. He's this very different character, and has a different struggle going on internally that I find to be a lot more interesting than just a guy in a big black suit.
It's definitely interesting, because I'm curious to see where it all leads to.
Well, exactly, and that's the thing with Force Awakens, is that it's that feeling. I want to see where this leads to. These characters, I want to see them continue. So even if the plot was cookie cutter, and the R2-D2 stuff is bullshit, the map is kind of bullshit, I'll definitely give that movie that criticism. But it's characters, and the fact that they nail the tone. It feels like Star Wars. It doesn't feel like prequel Star Wars, but it feels like the original trilogy. It feels like a lived-in, breathed-in world. The characters are also multidimensional. So I think that's the thing with Force Awakens, is that J.J. Abrams knocks that part out of the park. And now Rian Johnson, and I think a lot of people, we were just saying, a friend of ours was like, they're worried about it being too close to Empire. And I really don't think Rian Johnson's going to do that. I don't think the studio's going to let him either. Because of the fact that it's one of those things where it's like they've heard that criticism. We know that they are paying attention to what the internet says about their film. And the main criticism about their film is that it's too close to the first movie of the Star Wars trilogies. You know what I mean? And that so the second movie, it can't come out and do that. It just can't. And I think that a reactive, smart company like Disney, I don't think is going to quite do that.
I feel like there's going to definitely be parallels that are going to piss people off, though.
Yeah,
but that could be a sin. That's a sin.
I don't think that's a guarantee.
I don't know.
I think that people will probably extrapolate things like that, and they will try to make it.
I should say there'll be a few people. There'll be a small. Those people exist in every movie and culture, but Yeah, I don't know. I'm really excited. I can't wait. I cannot wait to see The Last Jedi. Rian Johnson is such an awesome director.
Yeah.
I just remember getting so excited to hear that he was being brought on for just like yes, and it's the sequel film.
Yeah.
I also got super excited when Colin Trevorrow got fired.
Oh, thank God. Yeah, we'll take JJ. I'll take JJ
Abrams
for
back,
sure.
wrap around, do the
Yeah.
But I mean, and now Rian Johnson getting signed on to do his own trilogy.
Yeah, that speaks to this film though that's coming.
Yeah,
like Kathleen Kennedy's like, oh yeah, here's a blank canvas of Star Wars. You know how much money that woman just told him he's like allowed to have right now?
Like $1 billion.
Yeah, like that is a huge commitment. That's more than you trying to marry your girlfriend right now, whoever's listening. Like, that is a huge commitment. Like, giving a guy a blank canvas for 3 Star Wars films. You must have a lot of faith.
A blank
canvas. And I would have that faith in Rian Johnson, everything I've seen.
Yeah, and from the sounds of it, he's having total creative freedom.
Yep.
And, I mean, he could already start storyboarding it now. Like, he'll actually have time.
And that's why the pre-criticism of the film that it's going to be like Empire really doesn't settle well with me. It's like, are you trying to tell me that the man that made Brick and Looper is going to just make some cookie-cutter Star Wars Empire Strikes Back remake? To me, you don't know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
I have a lot of faith in Rian Johnson that he's going to deliver a great film. I really think that he is an inspired filmmaker and has made unique films within pre-existing genres before. He has put new spins on things before like this. Looper is one of the most interesting of like sci-fi films as far as like looking like near glimpses of the future. There's so many things he gets right. There's so many interesting little ideas he's able to put in there. With him at the helm of a Star Wars film, it's like, you're trying to tell me he's making Empire? I don't believe it. Until I watch that film and it's Empire again, I don't believe it. You know, what are they going to put Finn into cryo sleep? I don't remember Han Solo ever having a fight with a character like Captain Phasma. You know what I mean? There's things in the trailer already that I'm sorry, this isn't striking me. The fact that even Snoke is going to be in it, physically, I think is already telling us there's going to be different things that are going on in this film.
Totally.
People are doing that parallel because of her going to Yoda. Sorry, of Luke going to Yoda, her going to Luke. And I really don't think they're going to be the same trip because Luke is pretty much in the trailer said so too. Okay? Yoda, he didn't show up to Yoda's and Yoda's like, yo, these Jedi need to stop. Like, I've been in this swamp for, decades, but you guys need to go away.
That is true.
So I think people are, they're taking visual things and they're taking like really surface level things and saying that they're the same thing. That's not necessarily what's going to happen.
Yeah, that is true. Hearing Luke Skywalker say something like that is super interesting, and I can't wait to see what they're doing. Like, just what are they planning here with the story?
Yeah,
I want to know. And just like obviously like the early interviews with Mark Hamill too, saying like he does not believe in anything that Luke decides to do in this movie.
Yeah,
like or he himself. The way he envisioned Luke Skywalker to be as a character. He
told Rian Johnson that like everything you've chosen for this character I like fundamentally disagree with.
Yeah, that's the quote.
So like I said, are you really trying to sell me that this is Empire again? And I expect that cynicism from people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just the world that we live in. No one can enjoy anything.
It's going to be the #1 movie in the world in 2 weeks, and it's going to stay that way until the end of December.
I think it's going to make I was thinking about it today, and I really think that, and it's so premature for me to even say it, but I was thinking ahead of just formulating my top 10 because I feel like at this point for the year, I will have seen most of the things that are going to be on it already. And it's like, well, what's really coming up? Disaster Artist and Star Wars. And I really think that Star Wars has a really great chance of being something that crosses both, where it is popular and fun and a blockbuster, but it's actually like a great movie. You know what I mean? I felt like we already got that. Well, it wasn't a blockbuster crowd pleaser for sure, but I felt like we got that kind of feeling already from like Blade Runner 2049 this year. Just being a movie that just hit me so hard.
Anti-blockbuster.
An anti-blockbuster.
It's a movie made with the money of a blockbuster, but without the worry of it making its money back.
Yep.
I mean, maybe that's a completely false statement, but I don't care. Because that's what it looked like. You just don't get films like that
Yeah.
Have that much tenderness and care put into it. It's not just a paycheck at the end of the tunnel. It's the art and the craft, and it's like, I love Blade Runner, and I'm gonna make a good Blade Runner movie.
Yeah, exactly.
And I feel like Rian Johnson is gonna bring that with this film.
With The Last Jedi. Yeah.
With The Last Jedi.
It's definitely, I think that people need to just calm your minds, breathe, just breathe, and just watch the movie. And just let it be whatever it is.
Yeah.
I like I said, I definitely get the criticisms of Force Awakens. Like, I totally get it. I totally get it. But I really don't think that the Rian Johnson Star Wars film is going to be like that. You had to tiptoe around eggshells with that film. You had to. Because you have to gauge what culture is going to accept.
Mm-hmm. You know, man, I don't know. As a businessman, like as someone in business, you know, like just like what they did is absolutely the way they needed to do it.
Yeah, yeah.
You don't just like come out with like some, I don't know. What did people want? I don't know. Like,
yeah.
Like how like a completely just original story. You have to dip your toe in and give the people some nostalgia. You got to give the people a familiar feeling. And you have to draw those people back in, and then write some really awesome characters, and like let it go through the trilogy. I can't wait to see where Rey and Kylo, all these characters' stories lead. Finn, you know, Poe Dameron. I love when the music kicks in the trailer, and he's standing he's like looking in the window into space. Like that's just like it's Oscar Isaac. Damn.
Yeah. Oh, he's got a line in Force Awakens that I really love, and it's when he shows up. And he's just, and I don't even know why. It just like, it gets me amped. It gets me amped. And he's when they're flying to Maz Kanata's, and he's like, fly right at these guys. Don't let these thugs scare you. I'm just like, fuck yeah, like, just fucking love Poe Dameron. Like, I don't know why. It's just such a small little line, but to me, it just says so much, and it just like, it would instill me with that to like, fuck yeah, let's go get these guys.
I love that relationship between him and Finn. And like when he's sitting there, when he sees him come, and you see like Finn's perspective of seeing Poe fly, and it's just taking down all of those TIE fighters. It's
I love
that tracking shot of him, just like he takes like 9 or 10 planes down in that tracking shot. It's so awesome.
If you watch too, he's taking out dudes too. He's shooting
on the ground.
Stormtroopers on the ground. Yeah, like as he's flying, like he's dogfighting that one. There's a part he takes off a dude in like a little like in like a little bunker, and as he's tracking that one that he takes out.
And like Finn's reaction, on the ground.
Yeah, it's exactly what you should say. Yeah. That's a pilot. Like that is.
And not knowing it's Poe,
Yeah,
it's sweet. It's sweet. Like that's how they reconnect.
Well, and I love that too. That it's like that's the moment they reconnect. I think I love that too with like Poe's character, where it's like they say that he's the best fighter pilot, but then they show you. They actually show you like
he's really good.
He's actually really good. We don't just keep hearing about it. Like they actually give you some really awesome examples. And I think that's what's like I said, I don't think there really was a Poe character in the original trilogies.
No, there's not.
I don't think there's a Finn either, and that's where the original things come into Force Awakens. The framework is familiar, but the characters and the things within it are not. And that's what I think is really, really great. And that's what he needed to do.
Well, I mean, overall, Rey is a fairly original character as well.
Yeah, I think so.
Like how her story is established and like her arc throughout the film is different than Luke's in A New Hope.
Yeah.
By quite a bit. I mean, there's a lot of similarities too with like the desert planet, whatever. But like her internal conflict is, as of right now, is different than Luke's.
Yeah, waiting. It's funny. She wants to wait. She wants to wait for her family to come get her, which is totally opposite when we first see Luke. And I do like that she's not quite as whiny as Luke is. Luke is very, I want to go to Taji Station and get some power converters. Like he's very whiny in A New Hope. Like. Rey versus Luke in A New Hope, I totally get everyone's like, she's like a yoked up feminist wet dream. But like, I think that like, I don't know, I really don't look at it that way, and I really think that she's an interesting, strong character.
Yeah,
that scares guys sometimes. She's a strong character. I hate too, they cheapen Kylo because they're like, oh, he lost to a girl. It's like, why are you doing that? Like, Rey's an obvious badass. Like, she's OP as fuck.
She's a Mary Sue.
Exactly. She's Mary Sue. She's OP. You know, I do like her, and I think that I'm interested to see where she goes. I think that like it's a little bit too soon to say that she's too powerful.
I think it's funny though, you know, because you say, you know, what are you basing it off of? Because in the original trilogy, it's literally like Luke Skywalker, Yoda, briefly, and Darth Vader and the Emperor. It's not like there's, you know what I mean? It's not like there's all these things. Like how much? I don't know. Like we've seen Jedi and we have the stories like well, I mean you got the prequels and stuff for some of that knowledge and like the Clone Wars and like the canon stuff in those series. I actually haven't watched those.
Yeah.
So I don't have a lot of knowledge from that. But I mean, what are you basing it off of? Why can't a character have like a higher power, you know, of gifting?
Yeah.
Like, why do you got to base it off of just, oh, well, Anakin was the most powerful and he sucked? Well, it's like, well, he also didn't film it very well.
Yeah, you say put by Hayden Christensen?
Yeah, it was, They just failed at that altogether.
Yeah. The misrepresentation.
Yeah.
Well, and they do it a couple times in Force Awakens, which I think is interesting. And it's one of those, like, lore things. It's like one of those, like, I'm going to get real nerdy on you quick. But, like, it's one of those things where I think it's when she's explaining... Okay, yeah, that's what it is. When they get the Millennium Falcon, right? And they get into the dogfight with those TIE fighters through, like, the wreckage on Jakku. It's funny because it's kind of hidden in the dialogue between her and Finn because they're going back and forth and they're talking over each other.
Yeah.
You know, congratulating each other and, like, you know, so happy that they made it out of the situation. But she's saying that she's like, I don't know how I knew, I just did. And that's how a lot of people who don't realize they have the Force are. Like, they don't realize that they're using it all the time, or that it, like, they kind of have this extra, like, shine to them.
Yeah.
And that it's, you know what I mean? Like, she can figure things out because she needs to figure them out, and the Force helps her because of that need. She doesn't know that she's tapping into it, but she is. The Force can help you with knowledge, it can help you with combat, it can help you see into the future and see into the past. Like, there's many functions that the Force can serve. So, like helping her repair something or knowing what to repair, which, I mean, she obviously has that knowledge from practical things, but how to pilot the ship, you know? Things like that.
Yeah.
That's completely, like, as far as what we know from, like, what's canon in Star Wars, like, her being able to pilot that better because of the Force totally checks out. In my mind, that totally checks out. So she's like, oh,
it's almost like saying the Force made her a Mary Sue.
Little bit.
But is that like saying she's a Mary Sue still? Because how much do we really know of the Force? Because
she's
an
untrained, powerful Force user.
Yeah.
I think that people forget that, like, the movie early on establishes to us how powerful Kylo Ren is, okay? And it's a scene that I think about it's comparing Empire to Force Awakens now. But it's in Empire, the scene is Han Solo goes to dinner with Lando and Darth Vader is there in the chair.
Yeah.
Whips out his gun, shoots him. Darth Vader stops the bullets with his hands. They hit his hands and they go into nothing. He dissipates basically the blaster bolt using the Force.
Yeah.
And
it's such an awesome scene.
It's a fucking awesome scene. It's like when Darth Vader pulls that shit out when you're a kid, you're like, holy shit, I didn't know he could do that. What? But Kylo kind of steps it up further. It's just to show you how powerful he is. You know, Poe fires around at him and he stops it in midair. Before he even gets to him, he just stops it there and holds it there without having to put any hands up, anything.
I love that.
Mentally holds it there while he's doing other things. It's to establish how powerful he is. That then shows that he can break minds. He has a special power that he's able to tap into the Force and use it to, you know, read minds and read people's visions and things like that. It's like some extra sensory, like far seeing, like other Jedi can
rip
do.
It out of you.
Yeah. You know, maybe even a secret dark side technique. Really, that's probably a dark side technique for sure.
Oh yeah.
But it's you know, we're shown how powerful he is in the Force. So, but I think what the audience is the disconnect is we don't see Rey using Force in a practical way or like in a way that's like, oh yes, the Force. It's these little things. Like, why is she so good at that? Why is she so lucky at that? You know what I mean? Like, it's the Force. And it's her own will. She doesn't realize that her own will is what's making her being able to tap into it.
It's kind of like Leia, like, throughout the original trilogy.
Perfect example. Yeah. Leia's a perfect example. And
she's a powerful Force.
Yeah, we see now that she's even more powerful. That she can feel people like all the way across the freaking universe now. Like she feels Han Solo die. Like she's able to sense Luke and Empire off the bottom.
She can probably feel Kylo Ren the whole time.
Yeah, she probably can. And I think that what we saw in the trailer.
Yeah, I think right.
Yeah,
I think and like as a mother, like that's got to be really hard.
Yeah,
and I think that's what I love that stuff between Han Solo and Princess Leia.
But yeah, I mean, she's an exact example of an untrained Force adept. That she's, she's adept in the Force, but she doesn't really wield it in like a controlled way or in a way where it's like, I'm going to Force push or I'm going to use the Force to speed up my jump and make myself jump higher.
Yeah,
and
it's
things
not
like that.
It's not like about
applying it to things. And I think that like when people don't see that application of it, they think that it's gone. But it's like Obi-Wan says it: the forces are always around us. It binds us. It's like it's this thing that is in everything. And I think that like people forget that like everybody in the Star Wars universe is part of the Force. There's people who are able to use it and who are stronger in it, but everybody is connected to the Force, and the Force can help with all those things that we see her do. If that's what the Force wanted, and she says it, she feels an awakening inside of her that like that the Force has become even stronger. It has intent. You know what I mean? The title of the film basically kind of says that.
Yeah, because I mean, if you got real like. You know what I mean? If you want to go like take that to its furthest conclusion, it's like the Force is a Deus Ex Machina.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? It's always going to help you get out of the situation.
Well, it could potentially.
Potentially, yeah. Well, at least for good. You know what I mean? If you just took that criticism to its furthest extent, you just took it.
Well, I'll use an example from the original trilogy, like Han Solo goes to that asteroid field, right? To like hide them, or like any time he's ever been lucky. Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like the Force is with him. Then maybe it's just like Chirrut. You know what I mean? He just says it out loud all the time. Yeah. So the Force it has its own intent. It is going to help. It doesn't just help Jedi. It doesn't just make Jedi have lightsabers.
No, it's everything.
It's everything. Yeah. It's in every one.
This world's or this universe's religion or belief system or energy force or fourth dimension or whatever. I love that it's a mystery. I love it's been well go to the
yeah, I know. I'm sure we'll hear it in the comments. What about Metachlorians? Metachlorians suck. And Metachlorians suck. If you're listening to us, you hopefully already think that they suck. It's a dumb,
I don't believe in Metachlorians.
Yeah, I'm a Metachlorian denier. Actually,
done a lot of research.
We meet every 2 weeks. We're very passionate. But yeah, no, I am not really of that thinking.
Well, I kind of love that Rogue One kind of brought that back a little bit.
Yeah.
It just kind of, I don't know, it just got away from that type of thing. I mean, like, sure, that is canon. I believe that is still canon, and how it's going to be is...
Yeah, I think it is, but we just pretend it doesn't exist.
Yeah. Rey, we're going to see... Yeah. Potentially,
they tell me that she's got more space bugs in her than other people. I'm getting up and walking out. Metachlorians come back, guys. I am out of here.
Well, if she was born without parents.
I will say though, John, in any other Star Wars media that I ever see, even post Phantom Menace, that is not in anything. No one ever mentions it. It's
all right.
Yeah, a lot of like any other media I've ever seen and gone through. They just pretend it's not a thing. Yeah. It's just kind of we all just said, George, that was dumb.
Yeah.
It's not a thing.
It's not.
We all collectively got together.
I love that about Chirrut, though, in Rogue One.
Yeah.
And he was that character that kind of brought that back.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like just kind of brought it back and centered it a little bit. Yeah. It brought what we loved about the Force back.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, even though he didn't wield it, but it was like his philosophy, his way of thinking, his way of talking about it, and his like representation of it. I really enjoyed that within his character.
Well, I think we kind of clearly see in that one too that he sees through the Force.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, that's why he's even able to do anything that he does. That is, he uses the Force like sight. You know, you're like, well, he maybe just has heightened hearing and stuff. It's like you just said, it's your way to explain anything. The Force can heighten people's senses. It's totally a thing that it does.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
he just doesn't have full control over it, like a Jedi would.
Yeah, exactly. He doesn't have that really technical, like he's not shooting lightning and stuff.
Yeah, he can't wield it knowing, like, purposefully.
Yeah.
Like, but he definitely is influenced by it.
It's like more of a glamour.
You think the Force didn't have control over him walking across that battlefield and pushing that button? Like, that was obviously the Force. That's what the Force is in this universe.
You got no faith if that didn't work for you. It's a great moment. It is a great impactful moment. I mean, we've definitely talked a lot about Force Awakens right now.
That's why I'm shifting over to Rogue One.
Like, I'd love to. Let's go back to Rogue One. You know, that's definitely a film that I think, too, is much maligned. But I think that all of the modern Star Wars are going to have a tough battle. They are, you know, the expectation of following up the original trilogy. That's a higher order than the prequels. But then the prequels also fucked it up, so the goodwill is also gone. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Like, so it's like that we've had the shit hit our tongues before, and we don't want that shit salad again. So it's kind of like this horrible place that these movies are put with this crazy expectation. The closer you are to the original trilogies, I think the more danger you're in. And I think that's for a lot of people, that it being Rogue One, being the story that happens literally right before A New Hope, I think definitely is going to be something that, like, it just, a lot of things are going to be ticking in people's heads with that one, you know? Just like, well, this has to be right and perfect and what I think it would be, you know, and match up.
I'm trying to think of other modern day prequels. I'm just other random prequels.
The Hobbit movies?
The Hobbit movies? Yeah, Rogue One's better.
Oh, yeah.
There's definitely more, I mean, just the care that was put into it. I'm trying to think of other ones now, too. Just, man. The first one that actually came to my mind was The Thing.
Oh, yeah.
You know, The Thing prequel.
Yeah. That's a bad one, too.
That's a bad one, too.
It was almost a good one.
Oh, yeah.
It was this close.
Yeah, real close. But like a film like that, I don't know, John Carpenter's Thing is, I think, one of the greatest movies of all time.
Yes.
I think it's just amazing. It's great. It's right around that same era in filmmaking and practical effects and all this beautiful stuff put into it. And then you got the Thing prequel,
CGI crapfest.
CGI crapfest, yeah, and it's just not great all around. And then people, you know, like, so is that movie is listed here, Rogue One, like, it's obviously better, so don't tell me it's garbage. Don't say Rogue One is. I hate that how the internet just kind of hits the gas pedal or hits the brakes. Like, why can't you just, like, put cruise control on and ride it at 30? You know what I mean? Like, it's always one or the other.
Yeah, it's always extreme. So everything's black and white.
Because, like, if I go online, I feel like I can't find too many people that, like, agree with me on how much I really liked, or how much I think Rogue One is a good film. But it was reviewed well. I mean, critics pretty much all agreed. They all really liked it. It made quite a bit of money.
You know, I will say, you know, looking back at, you know, and it depends on what you think of IMDb, but it's still an 8.1 on there with all of its ratings. So, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of people saying they don't like it, but they like it as much as Force Awakens, which is also holding that same rating.
Liked it. All the sheep.
Sure. I know lots of sheeple who are always on IMDb. Like, don't pull that bullshit with me. Like, people, I'm sorry, I know a lot of, like, plain Jane people, they're not rating movies on IMDb. Like, usually if you're on there, it's because you at least give half a crap about films.
Yeah.
Like,
we live in a place where IMDb is like, what did you just say?
Yeah. I've had that way more than I've ever had. Like, oh yeah, I just rated Rogue One a 10 because that was decent.
Yeah, because it comes out next week and I wanted to start off good.
Yeah. I never met that guy.
No,
never met that
happened
one,
with
the corporate
the
shill.
only one I saw that really happened to was like Interstellar. I don't know. But it wasn't still, though, like, the amount of people that would do that is still so slim. It doesn't actually have any there's a million people are voting. Like, that's probably like 5,000 douchebags.
Yeah.
Like, it's not that many people that do that. Yeah, and, like, walking around, how many people... You're like the only other person I think I know that uses IMDb faithfully. And that's why we're sitting here together
talking about movies
on a podcast. Yeah, we
Yeah, exactly. So
We
don't
live on
try to
opposite-
sell me that shit, because I've seen people do that. Just don't sell me that shit that it's like, everybody voting for the Transformers films. I really think that it's a really solid movie. It's got flaws.
It has flaws, yes. Every movie has flaws, and you get a movie at that type of level, and honestly, it is like original. It's an idea that they had to come up with to take place before, and it is just a completely different story than what we're used to. It's not Skywalker related at all. So it's got that going. But I talked to a lot of original trilogy fans, and almost everyone that I've talked to in my personal life, just not on the internet, they all really like Rogue One. Mm-hmm. And so, quite a few people I've heard say they prefer it over The Force Awakens, because it feels like that time period even more. And I would agree.
Yeah, it was a really fun journey getting ready for this podcast. I actually sat down for the first time and I watched Rogue One, the original trilogy, and then Force Awakens. And I think that I find that, at the end of the day, I have a similar place I would put them. But I think in a way I would lean a little bit more toward Rogue One. That I prefer it. Or that I would maybe rate it a little higher. I feel like I have less issues with it. And I think for a lot of people, they don't like the characters. They don't find that the characters are enough for them. But I'm sorry, when I was rewatching it, K2SO, spoilers, dying was hard. And that's a droid. He's a big black droid and that's it. He's a big black robot. And that is hard to watch. It's emotionally tough. It's hard to sit there and be like, oh come on, that it was devoid. Watching some of the scenes with Jyn Erso, and especially my third time seeing this film, I really like the character of Jyn Erso a lot.
So do I.
And the scene with Mads Mikkelsen giving his message, when she actually opens the message at Saw Gerrera's, it's one of the best scenes in the whole movie. And it's legitimately, heart-wrenching. And then later when she actually is there at his death, those are some difficult scenes. So, for a movie, like that, that, was supposedly devoid of all this character, the more that I see it, and even when the first time I saw it, it's got way too many high points there already to sit there and tell me that it has no interesting characters. I find Cassian Andor to be extremely interesting as well. Really for me it's about Cassian and Jyn and K2SO.
But like I said too, with Chirrut, Donnie Yen's character, and then him and Baze Malbus, there's a lot of subtlety going on in that relationship. It's not being just spelled out for everyone, but there is a lot of stuff, with obviously his conflict with believing in the Force. Yeah,
being a guardian of the will that doesn't believe in the Force anymore.
Yeah, he lost his faith along the way, but they still remain best friends. They're still together till the end.
Well, some people actually theorize that they're actually romantically together.
Oh,
yeah, and I try to watch it a little bit in that light. I find that maybe you're extrapolating a little bit, but it could be there. It could be there. I think that's honestly, I know a lot of people think the same thing about Finn and Poe, and I honestly say Star Wars, go for it, please. Go for it. It's fucking 2018 almost. Go for it. I think a lot of people will connect to that, and a lot of people nowadays, it's if we want this stuff, to actually get any traction, well, we need to put it in these big tentpoles. We need to, not that we need to push it or it's an agenda or anything, but it's just if it fits and it works, go for it. Go for it. I'd love to see it, kind of thing.
I never saw any of that on the. I never read any of that.
Which one?
With Baze and Chirrut.
I've tiny little
amounts.
bits. Yeah, I've heard people ship them, type thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I just it's the brother. I just. Deep brotherly love. I think there's definitely similarities in there. Just real love, actual love.
Yeah.
But just the end of that, and those two characters, that's a powerful moment in the Star Wars universe, I think.
But we already talked about that. There's implications just to what Chirrut does there about the Force itself.
Yeah.
Everything that he does actually is kind of
crazy.
Like I said, it has a lot to say about the Force itself.
Yep.
And I mean, they do try to drop some of those hints with Jedha and talking about kyber crystals and everything else like that.
Well, he obviously senses it too.
Yeah.
When she first walks through,
yeah,
he recognizes the necklace.
Yeah.
From a distance. So
under clothing.
Yeah.
What else can he say? He's a creeper.
He's a blind. He's a
blind in quotation marks. Yeah, sure. Yeah. Creepy old man. No, yeah, he's an empirically interesting character because it's just like you said, everything he does speaks to what the Force can do and what the Force is. It's subtly giving us more details on the universe, about the factions involved, about the Force itself, about the people that live in it, in the Star Wars universe. And I think that's what, for me, it was so exciting. I always loved Star Wars for the idea. I mean, that's the thing about Star Wars. It's like, it's this very full universe with a lot of different vehicles and weapons and characters and races. It's so, like, fully realized in some ways that that's what's, I think, it's given it that longevity. And this movie shows us finally a little bit more of like, okay, this is normal people on an adventure in the Star Wars universe. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
None of them here are Jedi. No one's Han Solo.
It doesn't have the hero journey.
No one's a princess. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it doesn't have the hero arc either.
No.
You know, the original trilogy, that's what makes it so special to a lot of people, is that Luke Skywalker to connect to.
Yeah.
You know, it's the hero journey. It's what we see time and time again. It's one of the even if the Force Awakens wasn't ripping A New Hope off, it's still it's still doing that because of the hero journey. We'll see what they end up doing. What
it does. Yeah. It could. Yeah.
Going forward, because you got the whole trilogy to see that hero arc.
Yeah.
And Rogue One was devoid of that. I mean, essentially, you still have Jyn Erso, you still have the team that's got to accomplish what they need to accomplish, but it's not the same. Yeah. It's not the trope hero journey. It's more of like a platoon.
It's a Magnificent Seven, but good movie. Yeah, it's like a Dirty Dozen type film.
Yep.
And I like that about it.
It's a suicide mission.
Yeah. And honestly, the scene of them embracing on that beach before the explosion is extremely powerful. So, like I said, I've already named 4 moments that to me are very powerful, and it has a lot of really, really great things and really great things to show and say about the universe. I totally agree. Like, them bumping into the guys that Obi-Wan cuts that dude's arm off. You didn't need to do that.
Yeah.
Wasn't needed. I thought the touches, though, of having Tarkin and Leia, I was fine with. I thought Tarkin looked pretty darn good.
I thought he looked pretty good, too.
For CGI, it was very good CGI. It's funny, I don't know, people and their CGI criticisms lately especially, it's nauseating, to say the least, sometimes with these. Is he pink or is he purple? He's fucking purple.
The sun is shining on him.
Oh, jeez. They're actually good enough to actually be able to put lighting into account, people. It's just like when you watch... I don't know what they expect. You're never gonna have CGI that looks like a real thing, and if that's what people are waiting for, well, the human brain needs to change first. So guys, work on that if you want to make
the biologist sound.
Yeah, exactly. Well, wait for your brain to evolve, I guess. Wait for evolution to kick in, and your grandkids will be able to say that CGI looks like real. It looks real.
You have to suspend some you have to.
I don't know if people have enough imagination these days, John.
No, it's gotta be given to me. It's gotta be created with billions of dollars and fed to my eyes. I demand that. I demand it. And if it's not given to me, fuck this movie. I want my $6 fucking wasted on it, you know? Just God, don't go waste your money on it. It's $8, man.
But it's
enough to go insane.
Yeah, it's enough to go insane.
I'm going
but
insane.
I thought that the CGI on Tarkin and Leia, it really did look good. Because even with the Marvel ones, you can see the lines in some of that stuff. You can tell that, it's not really young Robert Downey Jr. in Civil War. Everyone was like, look how good that looks. And then when Rogue One came out, it looked horrible suddenly.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think the fact that those actors don't exist anymore, I looked right on par with what they've done with Kurt Russell and Guardians of the Galaxy 2 just recently. It's all on par with that stuff.
It was good.
You know,
Michael Douglas and Ant-Man was pretty good.
Yeah, it was actually that's one of the best ones, I have to say. Him and Ant-Man, that was
I think the best one now is Rachel from Blade Runner.
Agree.
I was actually like
that one Disney.
I was actually in question. Yeah, that was Warner Brothers.
Yep.
What the hell?
Oh my god. A picture of Steppenwolf just pops up now.
That was honestly some of the best. It was hard to actually tell.
Yeah.
And that's rare.
Mm-hmm.
That's rare.
Yeah, it was. That was pretty amazing.
I thought it was hard to tell.
We can't talk about Blade Runner because it's gonna rabbit hole real quick.
We need to have a Blade
Runner
podcast.
That's a yeah. I guess you guys don't know what's coming next. But no, that's a great example though. That is probably the best one. Now that you mentioned, it reminded me. Yeah, that's probably the best one.
I think it's pretty much flawless.
So and even then though, like it's pretty much flawless, but you still know that it's not Sean Young.
No, yeah,
and so it's never going to, I think, 100% look real to your eyes. Like anyone living now.
But that's also like lighting. Like there's definitely there's some definite lighting going on there with Roger Deakins.
He does that.
But it's framed in just a way, and like it's a very limited movement that she has too in that. So I mean, like there's things that like play out in its the technical things that you do to make that look good too. It's not
a combination.
It's a combination of how to film this to make it look good, and not just like
what filmmakers used to do. And I think that like it's funny because that's what all the greatest filmmakers you've ever heard of. That's what they were actually really great at, is making bullshit look amazing. Like that's the job of like especially like the Spielbergs like and those guys of that era and stuff like. That's what they were amazing at. Like John Carpenter was one of the greatest inventors of just bullshit. Like just get a Shatner mask and paint it and it's good. There,
it's iconic.
It's iconic fear. Like that's crazy. And that's what I think a lot of the greatest directors do. And that is honestly what has made every great idea. Like if it was now, we would have a dumb CGI shark eating Quint. Like that's what we would be living in, a world like that. And Jaws would never make people scared to go in the water. If that movie came out now. It's because of the limitations sometimes that we get great things. Not the dance number in Return of the Jedi before they did the CGI, but we can get great things.
Even Jaws, like even that fake shark was supposed to be in the movie more. But it was so hard, lumbersome to film around that they just couldn't do it, and the movie just ended up becoming
better because of it.
Yeah, it's what you don't see, the tension.
Exactly.
Spielberg became a master of that. Speaking of Spielberg too, just Jurassic Park. Just thinking about that movie, was that 1993?
Mm-hmm.
The visual effects in that movie, oh my gosh.
And honestly, in a lot of ways, it holds up. I mean, like, in some ways. I mean, obviously, it doesn't look like now. But
it still looks pretty darn good.
It looks
that
pretty
T-Rex
darn good.
Looks closer, objects are closer in mirror, like when they're driving through.
Mm-hmm.
That's the iconic chase scene. That looks good, still.
Yeah, so I really, going back to Rogue One, it's one of those things where we've definitely gotten very first world with our CGI problems. If people are saying that looks awful, it's like, well, Peter Cushing's fucking dead, so it looks better than his corpse up on stilts.
Oh my gosh!
Like it looks like him, pretty good for you. Yeah, I thought so. So I think that it's one of those things, like, first world issues with that. And then, of course, too, with Rogue One, like I said, it's great seeing war. It's like a war film. It's like, Saving Private Yoda or something, like it's got some really interesting like set pieces when you have all the fighters and stuff when the rebellion fleet comes in.
Yeah.
Like that's when that movie gets really, really cool from like the standpoint of like a big fan of the universe, getting to see all these things on display and seeing these ships.
Yep.
In ways that we've never really quite gotten to see them, and seeing the intricacies a little bit. Like
you're just getting to learn a little bit more about the military.
Yeah, about how the Star Wars,
how the rebels work.
I thought Admiral Raddus was such a cool character.
Yeah.
The hammerhead thing that they do is so cool.
That is cool. That's an awesome moment too.
Yeah, and it's great use of like lore kind of thing. Like that's some deep cuts pulling that hammerhead out. I know a lot of Star Wars fans. As soon as he said it, were like, "Oh my god, yeah!" You know what I mean? Because and
real sweaty nerds. Yeah.
Real sweaty nerds. And I think that's what, like I was saying earlier, what's great about the Star Wars universe is that it's full like that. Like, there are books and books and books of just starships from the universe of Star Wars.
Yeah.
You know, it's very thought out, and there's so much detail, and there's so much information out there. Like I said, there's huge books of just the different species that exist in the Star Wars universe that you see in the background. They've got stories for all of them, you know what I mean? But like every species and what it is and where they're from and the planet, and they got the whole thing mapped out.
So basically what you're telling me is that Disney bought a very lucrative franchise.
Well, especially when you got a guy like Rian Johnson getting to play within that universe to his heart's content. And getting to write whatever he'd like to in it. And I think that's going to be so exciting moving forward.
That is going to be super exciting. I can't wait to see just everything that they do. You know, there'll be a day and age where probably not too far down the road where everyone's going to be like, oh, you know, Star Wars films are becoming a little lukewarm. I don't think I'll ever become that person.
No, I don't think I'll quite get there.
No.
You know, and I think we talked about it bit at the beginning. You're talking about like childhood and like it's something that's so ingrained. I think for a lot of people, it's your first huge sci-fi universe. So it's kind of like it's what you've created in your mind as archetypal sci-fi. You know? Like when Tolkien wrote The Lord of the Rings. You know, he created archetypal fantasy.
Yeah.
Oh, you know, there's dwarves and there's elves and there's people and there's halflings and there's orcs. Like, he put the template out there with Lord of the Rings. I think that really at the end of the day, that's the big thing with it. It's like, it's because it's got bunches of languages that he wrote and maps, detailed maps. Like, these are the things that give a universe longevity, and that's what Star Wars has that other things don't have. I mean, really, Star Trek is another one. It's so expansive that it's enough to chew on.
Yeah.
You know, mentally. And that's what's propelled these people for years and years.
It creates creativity.
Yeah.
And brings people in, and it's, like you said, it's the shared thing that people have in common. You know, 40 years. Because a lot of this stuff is fans. People that loved what George Lucas created, and they just added to it.
Yeah.
You know, and they kept adding to it, and adding to it, and adding to it. And everyone, just, you know, millions of people bringing all this stuff to it. It just kind of like, you know, jettison this creativity in people, and obviously influence like so many filmmakers today.
Yeah, and I mean, and it's not that Lucas reinvented the wheel. No, it's that he presented it to everybody.
He did it in such a way.
Yeah.
I was just having this argument the other day with someone about A New Hope and just the original trilogy not being very original. You know, George Lucas took a lot of ideas from a lot of different areas.
John Carter from Mars.
Yeah. He presented it in a way, though. I mean, there's so many things about it that makes it different, makes it standalone, it makes sense. Yeah, I mean, it basically created modern pop culture.
Yeah.
At least, you know, in Hollywood and cinema. It's the reason why Hollywood exists the way it does today. Star Wars. It's kind of crazy to think about.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that, like, when I went back and I watched, like I said, watching the series again now, minus the prequels, that it's, you know, when you watch A New Hope, it's like so much of that movie is like just showing us this universe and what it has to offer, and establishing these things. And, like, in a lot of ways, when you watch it, it's like, not a lot of the actors have that much personality, in a way, you know what I mean?
Except Han Solo.
Han Solo's got some. And so does Leia, actually.
Yeah.
Leia's got the most personality in
totally.
the movie. But I'd say that Harrison Ford doesn't seem that comfortable. As he does when you get to Empire, things are clicking. Things are clicking in a way that they weren't before. It's apparent. Because it's so much of that, like, you know that the world, how it exists, what everything is, and now we can kind of open up and get comfortable, show these characters more. Like, of course, the actors at that time, too, they weren't, you know, farm fresh Mark Hamill, nobody, like, it used to be a janitor, you know, Harrison Ford. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, They're a lot more comfortable actors, but it's they said it's that establishment of that universe in the first one though that's what made this impact, and it was, even though it was things that people had seen before, they had never, like said, seen it presented in this way. Like you talk about, like, oh, they ripped off Flash Gordon. It's like, I'm sorry, but Flash Gordon didn't have the fucking production value. I'm sorry, they didn't have the Cantina and John Williams, and
didn't have John Williams driving emotion into your soul, like becoming one of the greatest composers.
And too, like, okay, like none of the designs of the blasters in Flash Gordon are iconic. They had just as much chances to be. You know, I think in a lot of ways it's like people just being bitter or trying to find a way to, like, oh, this isn't that good because
discredit what other people love.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like looking at a really, really nice car that was built and just like, well, you know, cavemen invented the wheels. It's not that impressive. You know, it's like, oh, that's a nice Lamborghini you got there, but okay, wheels have been around for a while. You know, it's like, oh, whoa, what? You know, they didn't invent the car. You know, like they can't reinvent the car. You know, it's like, can you reinvent sci-fi fantasy completely? Well, it's like, well, that's a pretty specific thing. You only said 3 words there, sci-fi fantasy. You know what I mean? It can only be so many things. I can't throw a cowboy in it, can I? You know? Can't throw a ninja in there. You know, unless I make it a space ninja or a space cowboy, or, you know what I mean? Change it.
Yeah.
Make my own universe and fix it. So, I think that they really downplay, you know, the trying to discredit, like, the things that Star Wars has really done right. And, like I said, those other properties had their chance to become iconic. You know, no one put a gun to these people's heads and told them to go see Star Wars in the theaters. They went and saw it, and they loved it.
Yeah. George Lucas. And George Lucas wasn't like... What was he doing before Star Wars?
Nothing, just being a nerd.
Yeah, just being a nerd.
Just generally being nerdy somewhere.
And just, I mean, the production value of Star Wars is...
Yeah, exactly.
You watch the making of that movie. It's so awesome, and you see it on screen too.
Yeah.
You know, obviously George Lucas became very CGI drunk later in his life, but early on, the guy built everything.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I think he definitely. You know, I think it's definitely he was in a vacuum of like 3 decades of people like blowing him, basically. You know what I mean?
Oh,
he generated a entire company of yes men. You know what I mean? And that's where the problem happened. You know, it is though. It's he putting this person in a bubble, and he doesn't. You know, everybody's praising him so much he believes the praise they're giving him.
He's not the greatest writer either.
No.
He's a creative mind.
Exactly.
Writing dialogue is not.
Big picture guy.
Yep.
Big picture guy. You know, and he can't. Yeah, he tried to do too much with that, you know. When he got him on camera saying Jar Jar's the key to everything, it's like, okay, George, take a step back. Take a big old Gungan size step back. And just breathe. Just breathe. What do you see?
Totally.
You know, it's such a wonderful universe, and it's such a fun universe to play in. It's got a little bit of everything, you know, and it's got space magic, it's got blasters, it's got outlaws, it's got starships, it's got officers, and nobles, and, you know,
rebels,
space ninjas.
Space ninjas.
There are so many ideas being brought together, and I think that's really the thing that Star Wars is bringing to the table. It's not reinventing the car. It's not.
No.
But man, do I love that Lamborghini out there in the driveway.
Yeah, it's a nice car. It is a nice car.
So kind of getting here toward wrapping up, and we definitely talked a lot about Force Awakens, which is appropriate. We are getting ready for The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
We talked a bit about Rogue One.
Yeah.
But John, so I really want to ask you, what is your favorite Star Wars film?
Man, that's a hard it's a hard question. Because I didn't really start thinking of it that way until I became more of a critic of film. Where I start really trying to distinguish what is the best of the original, and I think Empire is objectively the best And I would probably say Empire is my favorite film, but damn, I do love Return of the Jedi as well.
Yeah.
I love A New Hope too. I really have a hard time differentiating and really like putting one lower than the other. Because I just I love Luke.
Yeah. Love the art.
I love Luke. I love Han Solo, and they're in all three.
Yeah.
I love the characters. I love the world. Like I said, when I was a kid, I probably watched Return of the Jedi the most.
Yeah. Well, if you're a big Luke fan, that definitely makes some sense because he's a badass.
I'm a huge Luke fan. I was so happy to go out and pick up a Luke Skywalker shirt. There's not enough out there, guys. A lot of Vader shirts, a lot of Kylo Ren shirts out there now.
Everyone wants to be edgy, John.
Yeah. There's a lot of the ships and the Grafs and the Death Stars and the Millennium Falcon shirts and the X-Wings and all that stuff. I don't see Luke Skywalker represented on T-shirts enough, and
I actually agree with that.
He's a great character. He's a simple character, I think, overall. But just I don't know. He's kind of that. He's like the everyday guy, you know, the hero. Like we were saying, the hero journey.
So you said
I'm rambling.
It's okay.
But I love them all equally. And honestly, sitting here when I'm really like breaking, like just talking Star Wars now for over an hour, it's hard to choose. It's hard to choose what is my favorite one.
I think it's a good answer though.
There's so many good things for each one. I do love A New Hope because that's establishing the world. You're getting established to these characters. Obviously, that was the first one that I watched and fell in love with. Empire is darker. You know, it takes that journey even further. You're introduced to Yoda. Gosh, I mean, Luke and Darth Vader's meeting. That duel is just amazing. It's iconic.
In Empire.
In Empire, yeah. Just like when you hear Vader's voice in that scene, it's one of the greatest moments in cinema. So I'll go with Empire. I'll be that guy because I know what you're gonna say. But just like the conclusion of Return of the Jedi, and just how it comes full circle, and like the character of Luke and getting to see the end of that, and obviously just the end of it is special in its way. You know, the redemption of Vader, brought on by Luke, by his son. You know, and doing what he did. So I don't know. It's hard, but I'll go with Empire for now.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's objectively the best one. You know, I think that it's filled with iconic moments, and the characters really come into their own and breathe.
Yeah.
Well, except for Han. Han is actually like really great in A New Hope, I think, because it's where he's like the nerf herderiest.
Totally.
He's the scruffiest there. You know, he's a real scoundrel in that one. I really like that. I like Han in that, and for me as a kid, I was all about Han Solo. That was my guy. I liked Luke, but Han, I wanted to be Han. A lightsaber's awesome, but you want to be Han. And from that moment of him like shooting Greedo, which he shot first, fight me, fucking fight me. Han shot first. And from that moment, that's honestly, like, that moment stuck in my brain the first time I ever watched it. Loved Han Solo as a character. It's just, he was like my first badass, like, wise guy character, you know, and it made a huge impression.
Yeah. I was a huge Harrison Ford fan.
Oh, hell yeah, man. Indy and Han, like, between those two, man. I don't think I wanted to be anything else as a kid, really.
Yeah.
You know, I just wanted to be some version of Harrison Ford. And so A New Hope, it's got that moment for me that's so special. You know what I mean? That nostalgic thing. But it's probably my least favorite of the trilogy, of the original trilogy. Yeah, because I think for me...
Yes, me too, actually.
Like, I've got this big bank of nerd knowledge in my head, and I like it. But I'm also, at the same time, I'm like, come on, let's get this thing going. So for me, it's like a lot of setup where I'm a fan that I don't need lots of setup. I want to get to the nitty gritty, and that's where for me, it's like Empire and Jedi really was where for me it hits its stride. And, you know, in the recent rewatch, like the real big differences, I think, for people, the drop off in quality of Jedi And the things that just don't work. It's the singing part. It's the dance number. It's the outdated music. Which actually, it's one of the few things that the new CGI and those actually like kind of help, because that original scene was horrendous. Worse than what it is. But that was a little bit of a side of just like, so this is what George thinks, crime lords hang out and listen to, I guess. It was just a bit like out of place. I don't know. Like I said, the sing and dance number. Was it needed? Probably not. And then the other part for me is, of course, then the Ewoks. People, of course, don't like the Ewoks. I totally understand why they had to make the Ewoks. They couldn't afford to make more Wookiees.
Yeah, and they weren't going to do, like, CGI.
Yeah, a bunch of CGI Wookiees, so like, that wasn't going to happen.
At least there's care put into, like, not having money.
But then there's still moments with the Ewoks. Like, yeah, they're a little cheesy and they're cute and stuff, and they're for the kids. But, there's that little shot of when that one gets killed in that explosion, and the other one's like, oh, with his buddy. I'm sorry, but that's hard to watch. She's his little buddy, and they're both furry.
Yeah,
they got hoods and little eyes. Like, oh, I can't help it. I've got a heart.
Yeah, it's a good moment. It's a good moment.
It redeems the Ewoks for me a little bit.
Yeah,
because every time I see them, I'm like, oh no.
I think the main thing is that the Ewoks just kind of they took away from the other story that was going on.
Yeah,
I think that a lot of times.
I don't know. I feel like they didn't really take away from it. They didn't because the movie's got like multiple things going on.
Yeah,
you got Luke and what's going on with him, and you got Han and Leia, but the Ewoks are related.
Yeah, they're related. I just think like some of the antics that happen there. And, it's like maybe that it took some screen time that was unnecessary. I think I don't really necessarily mind it. I just I think that's how people feel. Yeah, these little fuzzy things took like screen time away from the epic climax of Star Wars. It's like
Yeah, I don't know. I have a hard time looking at it like that. I really don't see it. Like I said, I
love Return of the Jedi.
Oh yeah, but I'd say that to me, like as far as the characters and the writing and everything else going on, those are the only real differences between Jedi and Strikes Back. Like I said, you really feel the actors have hit their stride. Their characters are getting even more interesting, and the conflict between Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker at the end of Return of the Jedi is some of the best moments in the whole trilogy. It's hard to get past that, I think. That scene is the best kind of scene in the whole trilogy, especially character-wise. Especially for Luke and Darth Vader both. It's just I don't know. It's so interesting. The stakes that are happening, just not only in their fight, but for Luke's soul. For his father's soul. For his sister being kind of held in the balance there. It's such a great and interesting climax. He beats the bad guy, but not really, and not in the way that you think. And honestly, like I said, having Darth Vader throw the Emperor down that shaft is an inspired choice. It's like Luke would have lost. You know what I mean? If Darth Vader hadn't changed, because it ends up being about this man's redemption. Yeah, and I think that's what separates it from the other kind of just the prototypical hero's journey fare. It's that ending that makes the series wow, this was something different. This was something special.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think that's where now Jedi's not my favorite, but
I thought you were gonna say. See, that's why I was saying. That's why I was saying your pick's gonna be different because I thought you were actually gonna go with Return of the Jedi.
It's for me. It's one of those things that they're all so close. They're all so close. Empire Strikes Back is the best one though. But Return is not that far behind.
I don't think any of them are.
Exactly.
Because A New Hope at least gets that it established.
I think I think Return of the Jedi is maligned way too much. Way too much. Just between Jabba's sail barge and that ending scene, it's got some of the best moments in the trilogy. Yeah. It's got more moments that I like to revisit than A New Hope does. That's straight up honesty.
Oh yeah, totally.
I like A New Hope, but it's probably my least favorite of the trilogy. The original trilogy.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say the same thing. It just has the least amount going on. And
Yeah.
it's like once you're already established in this world, it's like I want to get to the conflicts. I want to get to the character development. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like further character development. I want to see the Force. I want to see like more stuff happening.
Yeah.
I mean the trench run.
Yeah.
In A New Hope's
Oh
amazing.
God. Yeah. Amazing.
Amazing.
And really, in a lot of ways, ahead of its time. You know, and that's what another thing that it did.
it
Like when
still
people talk
looks
about like they
good.
ripped that from Flash Gordon. Flash Gordon wasn't doing shit like that. And then so the John Carter book wasn't doing that either. Okay, like there are actually there are things that Star Wars did that other people weren't doing that are special. Okay, that trench run is one of those things for sure. You know, it's one of those. The more we talk, it makes that argument so silly to me.
About it not being original.
Yeah. Or just like not offering anything original. Like, why did this become famous when all this other shit should have become famous too? And it's like, because they didn't have that in 1977. Because that was actually a spectacle. And that's why there is so much like fandom for just the vehicles.
Presentation is important, students. Presentation is important. It is.
Yeah. But, it's going through here and just kind of... we really have touched on all the films and some of our thoughts on all of them. And just kind of our general excitement here for The Last Jedi coming up. What's the moment for you? What's the Star Wars? What's the moment? What's the moment that just, like... That's what, like, your brain goes to? Star Wars.
Man. I have never been asked that question. What's the moment? I think it's Obi-Wan Ghost mentoring Luke in the trench run.
Yeah.
I just like, when he like used the Force Luke like that, like that scene. I mean, that's the establishing like moment. Mm-hmm. I think where you see that like Luke has, his destiny. Like it's starting to it's starting to show you that Luke is extremely important in this galaxy, in this universe, and like what's going to happen further down the trilogy. I mean, you're getting that before too, but I think like in that moment, like it's just like his spirit there guiding him, and it's an epic scene, and that's like, when you're 6-7 years old watching that is a very impactful moment to be like witnessing and to be influenced by that magic of movies. I have to say that. I think my favorite moment though in the trilogy is, like I said, Luke and Darth Vader, coming together at the end of Empire. You were not a Jedi yet. Like that whole, like everything, all the quotable lines in that. Yeah. All the dialogue that Darth Vader is giving Luke in those scenes. That's like my favorite. One of my favorite scenes, I think, ever in any movie. But that moment, when you said that moment, what is that moment? That's what I think of. It's Obi-Wan.
Use the Force, Luke.
Use the Force, Luke. Yeah, as he's flying through the trench run, and it's like him calming his nerves and realizing that like this is going to happen, by believing and trusting in the Force, that's it. That's that moment for me.
Yeah.
So what about you? Yeah, what's your moment?
It's gotta be Return of the Jedi, and it's gotta be the Emperor taunting him, telling him, "Use all your anger to strike me down right now." And that moment of conflict, and then that turnaround, and then just the crossing of the lightsabers right in front of the Emperor. Yeah. Now close by though has gotta be, and it's the same scene you mentioned, Empire Strikes Back, but it's the silence where he's just standing there in the mist.
Yeah.
And then the lightsabers just both come out.
Yeah.
It's just like when you're watching that part of the film, it's like you perk the fuck up. You're like, oh man, this just turned into something real.
Yeah. And then what happens after that? Just like everything, and then the reveal.
Yeah.
Well, just being a young kid too, and like seeing like your hero get his arm chopped off.
Yeah.
That's a big thing. I didn't watch many graphic movies or anything that was like R-rated before that.
It's jarring, yeah.
It's jarring to see. It's like, you know, you feel a little nauseous, you know. You're just, I don't know how other people react to violence at a young age, you know, but how I did, you know, seeing it, you know, it's like not desensitized at all. Seeing your hero lose his arm. I mean, shit, I lost my shit when Jamie got his hand in Game of Thrones, and he's not even, you know,
he wasn't even likable yet.
Yeah, he wasn't even likable yet. So maybe that's just it's just a thing that I have. Limbs being lost, like it's just really hits you in the gut a little bit. So yeah, age 7, Luke. Your hero losing his arm.
Yeah, that's an intense scene.
Well, and then the fall too.
Yeah,
and like him having to catch himself, like just like it's an intense thing.
Yeah, it's such a great like well choreographed fight, and it's like because the fight in A New Hope is not that great, and that's where we finally feel like we got a real lightsaber fight. It's not like the prequels where it's all quick and super over choreographed, but it's honestly just such a great sword fight, and one of the greatest like sword fights in cinema history.
It's the setup. It's
exactly.
what makes cinema. It's what
setup.
It's what makes good movies great movies, or it's what makes a great movie. It's how you set things up. We were talking about Jaws too. Yeah. It's the filmmaking behind establishing these characters and establishing this moment, and then filming the moment the way they do, like you said, him standing in the fog and it just silence and just the saber just echoing as it crackles open. Like it's just epic. It's epic.
And as we kind of said at the beginning of the podcast,
Jones.
Yeah.
I mean, just epic. It's epic.
And as we were saying at the beginning of the podcast, I think that movies like Star Wars and franchises like this are important. They have to be of a high quality. Like they do have to be good and offer something new, either visually or emotionally, or just something that everyone can rally behind and be like, this is great, and I love this, and you love this. And like I was saying at the head of this, maybe you talk to someone you wouldn't talk to normally. Maybe you bump into them at the theater of The Last Jedi, and you realize, oh, wow, there's this thing that we all see in this same way.
And I think, and just going off of what you're just saying, I think Disney is doing that.
Yeah.
I know people are like, you get all these conflicting criticisms and all this and that, but you can tell that like there was tender care put into like making sure that people and fans would like The Force Awakens.
Yeah.
You're not going to please everybody.
Yeah.
It's impossible to please everybody, but they cared about the fans to give them what they were actually thirsty for, what they were actually looking for. I think Rogue One was the same way. I think that they actually, it's a risk. They did a risk film. They did something different. Obviously they're gonna pepper stuff in there too, because they do. It is a product. Like it is. They are trying to make profit. That's the purpose of the existence of Disney. It's why it still exists, because they're trying to create something to make money.
I think though that they've shown that they have a track record of doing that, but at a high quality, making a high quality film, good films, but still are doing that. It's like, because I think they are smart enough to realize that to get everybody to come, you actually need to please people. Like to actually come and fill those seats. People actually need to enjoy what they watched. So that doesn't mean making a movie that you're not passionate about, that you don't have filmmakers who aren't passionate about the subject, you don't put the care into the story or the characters. Like between all their branches, you're looking at them. Marvel, Pixar. Like, are you telling me these people don't care if their audience actually enjoys their films? Look at the reviews for Coco right now and tell me that Disney doesn't care. They do. Yeah. They want to make good films for people. They want people to rally around their films, bring their families around their films.
Yeah, totally.
And I think that it's a noble thing. We need to have blockbusters like that. As much as I love all my niche indie movies and all of my horror movies, I love that there are movies that I can sit down with my whole family, with everyone.
Yeah,
Mom,
everyone.
Dad, Grandma, Grandpa, all the kids, everyone can sit down and enjoy something together. I think we need more of that in this world and not just in film.
Yeah.
And I think that's what the importance of it.
We need more of that in film, though, too.
Exactly.
We need more of that in film. The big ones that actually have the care put into it. Like Blade Runner, though Blade Runner's not for everybody.
Yep.
It was never going to be. But I love seeing that. I love seeing that in movies. And I think Rian Johnson definitely did that with The Last Jedi. I think the proof is there with him getting a trilogy. He signed on for a trilogy that he has total creative freedom over.
So that's a bigger deal than I think some people even realize. That's a lot of money to invest in a person.
We have not seen that done yet either. Because the prequels were all done by George Lucas, and that trilogy, and obviously the original trilogy, that's its own. That's what was going on there. But then you get The Force Awakens by J.J. Abrams, and then they were set to have 3 different directors, and then Rogue One also being Gareth Edwards and his single film that he was going to do, but getting an actual full trilogy, not just a spin-off, not just one film, but a whole trilogy story.
Yeah.
I think the signs are pointing up.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to see what Rian Johnson does. It's just an awesome director to have chosen to do something like that with.
Yeah, so the excitement for
is
Last Jedi is very real. It's palpable. I assume everyone listening to this is going to be seeing The Last Jedi when it comes out. I really hope that it's the movie that we think it is. Like John has just said, the arrows are all pointing in that direction. But I would definitely say, guys, please go sit down and just enjoy this movie. Enjoy it with all your friends. Enjoy it with all your family. Look for that person in the theater that you know from work that you've never talked to before, and you see him sitting there across the room. When you see him at work afterwards, talk to him about The Last Jedi. Make a connection. These movies are here for everybody. They're here, and I think that they are important in our society to have things where we all can rally and come into the same room and try to piece something together as a group. So I hope you guys find us on our Twitter at BacktoFeature. You can also find us on our Facebook at BacktoFeature. Tell us what you think about The Last Jedi. We'll for sure do a video review of it as well. Tell us in the comments here, what is your favorite Star Wars film? We talked a bit about ours. If you guys want to just talk about your favorite moment, that's cool too. So just tell me, what's your favorite thing in Star Wars? John, you have anything to add?
Hey, even if I'm not there with you, I'll be there with you watching The Last Jedi on opening weekend. I can't wait for this. I can't wait for everyone to see, and I can't wait to come back together on the internet and talk about The Last Jedi. So that's all I really have to add. I'm super excited. Like my inner child is just bubbling right now. I cannot wait. I just hope everyone out there is feeling the same way. Don't have hesitations. Don't overthink too much going into it because you haven't seen it yet. Just sit down in front of the screen and let it be presented to you in what it is.
So guys, I hope you enjoyed this podcast today. I've been Giovanni Carlo.
And I'm John Vanderloo.
And may the Force be with you.